Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of GeekVerse podcast. I am one of your hosts, my partner, Taylor Field, and I'm joined by...
I am the real hunter, Kirkland Patzer.
I am the foreigner, Dylan Muss.
Yes, we are here because it's a very special finale review for Sony, I guess I should say. We're going to be reviewing Kraven the Hunter tonight, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get into our non-spoilers and spoilers thoughts, a couple of plugs. You can find this with your internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our own base. GeekVerseCast is our Twitter. GeekVerse is our Facebook. Now, you have to do me a big favor. You have to go to the Patreon because you're going to get ad-free exclusive early content. There's so much juicy stuff over there. Go check it out. And I also want to shout out our amazing Patreon producers, Aaron Braden, April of Darkness, Jack Grant, Mud, Sam, Superbad Mike, God Loves Me 69, Jeremy Renner. You folks are fantastic. You keep the lights on. What else is cooking in the oven right now?
Oh my god, million TV shows, million movie reviews. Side Quest's going to have 2 episodes next week. It's a very busy time. I think the only thing people can do is subscribe, and then they can just see it all. And they don't have to think about it. They don't have to think, oh, what's coming out what day? Just hit that button, and then it'll just pop there on your phone right in front of you, and then you can just listen happily.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
Anything for you, Kirkland? Specific
I
dates
got up
review?
my first ever solo review, first ever solo episode that I've ever done. Potentially a second one. We'll see if that actually happens. We got Dexter New Blood. I can't remember
Original
what the hell the
Sin,
name.
Old
Original
Sin.
Sin. There you go. Yes,
The
not New
Second
Blood.
Sin.
So stay tuned to those feeds. I'm not gonna cement in stone right now if I can crack out a solo review of that, but we'll be jumping onto those reviews weekly once they do air.
Yes, beautiful. All right, so yes, here. We have it now. Sony came forward and basically said they're kind of wrapping things up with this movie, and so this is kind of end of an era because we kind of gone through so many different Sony versus Marvel films, and it really felt like they were gonna really create their own sandbox and world. But here we are. They're closing it out. Aaron Taylor Johnson. And yeah, so who wants to take it away with the non-spoilers thoughts?
It's funny you mentioned Sandbox. Felt more like a litter box, honestly.
Oh,
after, the string of movies that I was witness to. Yeah, I feel like the Sony universe as a whole, I'm happy that I can close this chapter just because I feel like it peaked on the first film, which would have been Venom, and that wasn't even like a high peak. It was just like, okay, this is not a terrible movie. I quite enjoy some aspects to it, and then I just feel like every project since, like, yeah, I feel like every project since has been worse and worse. Like I didn't like solidify my Sony rankings or anything like that, but yeah, in hindsight, I feel like as they went on, it just got worse and worse, and I don't know. I feel like because I had expectations so low, it's like they can't really disappoint me that much further. And I must say they truly did. This was an extremely rough movie. I believe that, and I just can't believe this is a $110 million project. Like I feel like this is just such a terrible production of something of media that they put out there, and probably a little bit of like some hyperbole in there, but it doesn't seem too extreme, honestly. Like I feel like the vast majority of this movie I was just really wanting it to get just over and done with. And I don't know, I try not to be too negative with my reviews. I feel like most of my reviews don't usually go that hot and heavy, at least to the start. But yeah, over 2 hours for this movie. Cut like 40 minutes, honestly. This could have been so much cleaner. As an R-rated film too, like why was this R-rated? Like
Totally
they're just
agree with
shooting
that.
themselves in the foot by limiting the audience. Like the lack of interest was already at an all-time high, I feel, for this movie. And then limiting, a vast majority of the audience by making it R-rated is just crazy to me. Aaron Taylor Johnson, not terrible. Like, definitely he's not the problem of this movie by any means. I feel like I really have been liking him lately in side roles and stuff. So I am kind of rooting for the guy and like wanting him to get a really good lead role in something. I don't know, like an Ari Aster or something. Like I want to see something different than just an action movie, because I like he's good in it, but I just think I want to see him in a very different type of role with a very solid script, with like a really, I don't know, just solid story. And I knew I
Like
wasn't going to get that
Nosferatu?
coming into this, but yeah, yeah, there you go. He's not necessarily the lead in that though, right? Because he is great like as side characters. At least the last handful of projects that I have seen him in. I don't even think I've seen Kick-Ass either. Like I don't know. I know it's like a different era of Aaron Taylor Johnson, so like I don't know how you would compare the performances there, but yeah, no, I think there were. For me, I felt like this movie was majority just like bad in the sense of I'm not even like having a fun time laughing at this. Like it's just like actually bad and dry to get through. Felt really long. There was some spikes in the in like that direction of it just being ridiculous, and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. So I was laughing out loud for sure at a couple points, but I think only one actual joke like got me like a little chuckle like, and I don't know, there was like 5 people in my theater opening night. They didn't even put this in the Extreme theater. I was kind of shocked. I don't know what I expected, I guess, just seeing like what the expectations were numbers wise going into the weekend and everything, but I was still just kind of amazed. I walked in there and it's like, man, like literally 2 people, like this is crazy. And then a couple more people came in after, and pretty dead crowd. No one was really laughing at anything, and yeah, no, it's just goodbye, Sony, whatever we're calling this, and we
Sonyverse,
hardly miss you. At least I, for example. So, yeah,
Does
sorry for starting so negative, but that's kind of how I felt.
I mean, is that unsurprising start for a Sony movie? Is it because we got 6 movies in total, right? The 3 Venom movies, Web, this,
Yeah,
and Morbius. Does it feel like more or less than that to you guys, or like does it feel like it has been exactly 6? It feels like more.
Yeah,
But maybe that's just because I feel like I'm being tortured when I'm watching these movies.
I think for me it feels like more when you say 6 because I just kind of clump Venoms together. So maybe that's the reason. Like I kind of see it as 4 because it's just like 4 kind of I don't know, characters, I guess that they're going with. So
yeah.
I
could jump in here next. I mean, yeah, Kirkland's on the money here. This is a Sony Marvel movie, so it's not good. The main thing is that the writing is just awful. That's just how it always is. I almost said great there for a second. I don't know how that almost slipped out. Yeah, just like very generic dialogue, all the one-liners from any character. I feel like as far as quips go, this movie's not very quippy, but when it is, it's just generic lines you've heard churned out 1,000 times from ChatGPT or something like that. So it's a classic in that Sony realm. But for some reason, I kind of had fun with like a lot of this movie.
okay.
I don't know why. There's definitely large swaths I did not like. The origin story sequence. We'll talk about that. And speaking of like where you could have cut time, Kirkland, that was like 3 times longer than it needed to be to get the point across. But then there were some other moments, and like there were some interesting characters in here. A couple villain type guys. One guy in particular that I really enjoyed, actually. Not necessarily like killer dialogue or anything, but just in terms of like some fun visual effects and whatnot. And yeah, I think Aaron Taylor Johnson like does a pretty good job here for a character that doesn't really have a personality. Like he still is fun enough on screen, and I like the dynamic he had with his brother. I thought that was a fun combo, and even like with their dad, like that whole trio actually like kind of worked for me somewhat. I still don't think this is a good movie by any means, but I was at least able to find some more fun here. And just kind of comparing it to other ones recently, like Madame Web was almost so bad it was good, just because like the dubbing was off and the dialogue was so trash that it was just like I could laugh at that one a lot. We talked about the first Venom back in the day, like that was a hilarious movie in the theater, just making fun of it. And I feel like along the way, like Morbius was just not fun or so bad it's good. Venom 3 was not that. I still haven't seen Venom 2. I just never got around to that one. And so I feel like this is maybe my favorite of the Sonyverse, or maybe I liked Venom 1 more, but I just haven't rewatched that movie since it came out, so I'm very fuzzy on it. But with all that said, I'm never going to watch this again, and when it comes to Golden Geeks, or even the MCU or the Marvel Golden Geeks, you're not going to see me pepping this in a bunch of categories, so don't get me wrong there, but I'm happily... I'm not just dreading what I saw in the way that I have for some of these other movies. So I don't know if I'll be able to really defend it at all because I don't think it's good. But I at least found some things I could enjoy. But where are you at, Taylor?
Oh, so first of all, I got to shout out Charlie Randall, another one of our Patreon producers. I'm so sorry, haven't put your name on the roster yet, but it is there now. But my thoughts
Oh, nice. Thank you.
are this movie feels chopped up and indecisive and incohesive in how its kind of trajectory is going in its storyline and its storytelling. And I felt that really pulled me out. Now, the writing is definitely not great. There's a lot of moments in this movie where I feel like, okay, the characters probably had their lines changed, because there's one very huge
Oh,
moment
yes.
where Aaron
Yes.
Taylor Johnson, his lips don't move, but he actually says dialogue, and that really pulls me
Not
out.
just
But I feel
him.
like
It was a multiple. Yeah.
you saw it with
big
other
time.
characters too. Okay.
Yeah, I'll shout it out, when we get further in, but I'm glad you brought that up actually, because that really took me out of it.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great, but I do think that the actors definitely, they came to play, and I do enjoy Russell Crowe in these roles for some reason. He just, to me, he really feels like this Pope's Exorcist kind of role in here. You
It's
feel
like the
that
exact
too?
same accent. It was tripping me
is.
out when he was first talking.
Exact same accent, yeah. So, and then maybe it was the Den of Thieves 2 trailer that I got at the start of the movie too. I was just thinking, like, I'm feeling the Russell Crowe right now. So.
Isn't that Gerard Butler?
Was that Gerard Butler? I thought it was Russell Crowe.
Definitely Gerard Butler.
Oh my god,
They have a
just-
similar chubbiness.
They,
to
in
them
their
right now.
old
Yeah.
age, they are looking the exact
They
same.
just
so I
become
don't,
the
I
same
don't blame them.
person. Yeah. Oh my goodness. But yeah, there's just a few other things in this movie that I don't know. It's not one that I'm going to be revisiting right away, but it's definitely a movie that I think the end of the day, it was something that I kind of enjoyed, but again, like, it's not anything that's breaking records or breaking new tiers in the movie industry. Like, it's not that. And so if you're looking for something that's just kind of like a brain dead actiony movie, then this is probably going to be it. But I will say Aaron Taylor Johnson definitely, he was great. I had a lot of fun with him. I did get pulled out at times when he's running on all fours, because I couldn't imagine how he was able to be faster when he's doing that. But again, it's whatever.
It's magic.
It's magic, yeah. But yeah, there's some other weird conclusions too with our characters. We're like, okay, this was clearly their last scene, or there's some other things too, and just some other weird things that they introduced. But all in all, it's a movie that I had fun with, and I think that you can probably wait and not go see it in theaters. You can probably just stay at home and wait to see it at home.
Or
on
just
streaming
wait
service.
your entire life and never see it. I think that's a
Yeah.
fine solution.
Wait
too.
till the MCU does a version of Kraven themselves, and I think you'll be happy with that. So
In the form of a Kraven movie, or do you think they will ever try that?
I think
That'd be
you'll.
crazy.
Well, it depends. It depends what we see the future being for Sony, what they do with these characters. They license them out or something
Right.
like that. But yeah, I would put more faith in the MCU and Feige to handle this character than Sony apparently did here with this movie. And it seems like we're not the only ones. A lot of other people seem to be kind of joining our team here with giving it low scores. But to each his own. I mean, maybe you'll go see it and you might think it's the best movie of the year. And that's
Haven't
a
seen many
bold
movies
statement.
then.
Yeah, I haven't
That
seen
is
Yeah,
any
if it's
movies.
the only movie you saw, then maybe it could be
Then
both the
maybe.
best and the worst at the same time.
Yeah. But on that note, was there anything else you guys wanted to add?
Well, just a quick, I guess, we'll talk about the set pieces when we get into the spoilers, but just what do you guys think of the action overall in this, the fight scenes and CGI quality and that sort of stuff?
I thought it was an incredible waste of R-ratedness, like in the sense of
Yeah, there's one scene that really
yeah.
goes for it, but the other ones, I kind of forgot until that scene that, like, oh yeah, this is R-rated and they can do anything, and they just refuse to for most of the movie.
It just felt like PG-13 scenes with like some added blood to it, and I thought all the blood in it honestly looked terrible. Like there's a couple of flowing blood scenes, and it just looked so CGI in the sense of like a PS2 graphic. Like it looked so bad, and it's just like, man, they literally just erased the red and you can just have this a PG-13 movie, like maybe remove some F-bombs. So yeah, I definitely think that overall the action was a lot more tame, and I choose my words wisely there in the sense of a pun. But yeah, no, for a hunter movie with Kraven the Hunter, like it felt very held back, and I feel like when you get the R-ratedness, like let's just go for it, right? Like let's really get some guts spewing all over the place, and I don't know, it just seemed really lackluster in that sense, and also there was a lot of action that just felt kind of cement mixery, which very like reminded me of Morbius. I remember Morbius having action like that. I really don't remember much of anything of Madam Web. I imagine some of the action that would have been in that movie was similar. So
Yeah,
reoccurring
can't
thing with
remember.
these Sony movies, because Venom also was very much like that when you had like multiple symbiotes. I remember in the first movie for sure, like the last fight between Venom and Riot, I think was the name, just like a kerfuffle and very like not well done. So
Hmm.
that's my passionate thoughts on on the action of this movie.
Yeah, fair. I there's a couple that worked for me. There's one stealth sequence in particular that I actually really enjoyed. We can talk about that, and then yeah, I don't know. I kind of just liked some of the movement stuff of him just running around the city or like a particular prison. I'll say. I don't know. It was kind of fun for what it was. So.
I thi-
I had some more. I had some better moments with the action here than I have with the other Sonyverse stuff. I would say.
I think I know the scene that you're talking about and you're alluding to, because as soon as it was going on, I just thought of you, and I wanted to, make a comparison
dude.
to maybe a certain video game series.
I've been playing
I'm
so
just
much
like-
Hitman that I was all over it.
It reminded me of like an arcane type game. I'm like, man, this is like basically my movements in the game. It's just it looks
Yeah.
funny in a live action setting. So
It does, yeah.
Cool. Well, how about we jump to our first ad break and then we get back into this?
I love that.
And we are back. So, where do you guys want to start?
Oh,
I want to start by saying I feel like this movie was very, very clearly reshot in multiple different, I guess, sequences of the story. I felt like there was some stuff with the opening that was very drawn out with like the prison break, where it felt like we were in one scene, maybe like one hallway, and then he like jumps to another area, and it like just the way that he like is walking in the one scene and then picking up and like talking to another person, it just seemed like they had like redone some things there. That one wasn't as noticeable as like some of the ADR stuff that was going on between Calypso and Kraven when they're in like that dome type thing.
It felt like they shot that and they were in different sets. They weren't
Yeah,
even together.
and that was the scene, Taylor, when I was actually getting tripped out because she's talking and her mouth was like so clearly CGI'd over to the point where it like her eyes are like still and then her mouth's moving as if it's like an alien taking over her body, and I'm like, is this like a story thing? Like this is so obvious that like it makes it feel like she's about to reveal that she's a Skrull or something. Like it was so tripping me out. And then of course later on there was also more moments of like as if it's a Bruce Lee type movie where like someone's mouth is moving and it's just like a completely different like pace of dialogue and the words are just like not synced with the mouth. And like why even do a close up of the face? Like why not just have him like from behind talking if you're going to do that ADR stuff? It was crazy. It like totally took me out of it. And then I'm like there's no way that's actually just poorly edited in that sense. Like it's going to be a story reason and it didn't. And I'm like what the fuck am I watching? $110 million for this? Are you kidding me? Like this is so hysterical how bad that was. But I don't know. I was pretty passionate about it, I guess.
yeah. For me, the Madam Web ADR stuff stood out way more than this for whatever reason. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I didn't catch it. I must have been eating my snack when those particular dialogues happened or something like that.
It's just a shame that they have to go ahead and allow those things to be noticeable. Because you're right, Kirk. That's a lot of money. It's a big budget, and I just feel like it's very unfortunate they have to. They should do a better job at trying to uphold that standard and kind of get that out of there. And if you have to do reshoots, well, reshoot those scenes where you're removing all that ad lib stuff and it doesn't look so poorly CGI'd, where their mouths are not speaking to the same words that are supposed to be coming out of their mouths. And yeah, that whole scene when it was her and him talking at his base, and it was just filmed in a way that, okay, they're definitely not together while they're having this conversation in the same set, but it also felt like she's gonna get sniped or executed because we knew the bad guys were coming here, and she was just gonna get like sniped on the spot, and then he was gonna be like, oh my god, I gotta go fight or something like that. But even her ending, that was it. Shortly after that, like, she gave him the medicine and was like, "Yo, my grandma, I wasn't just gonna give you my family's recipe or whatever," and that was it. She never came back for the whole rest of the movie. She's like, "Go get him." And then she's done. It's like, well, I would have loved a little bit more closure, but the way she was introduced and the way she just was reintroduced at this funeral with Kraven, that just felt shoehorned in. There were so many plots that really just were like shoehorned into this story, and it was very uncomfortable.
I'm glad you like brought her up about like how disjointed it felt, because I felt like some of the biggest moments for me that felt just like random in the sense of it not being like a natural progression of like tying things together. Like it just felt like it was like a multiverse jump sometimes, was all around her character, Calypso. I feel like in the early portions with the younger version of Kraven, which am I not mistaken? It was 16 years, right? 1-6?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is okay. That's crazy to me. But anyways, so like just her introduction there to her being a lawyer, and it seems like this is going to be like some very like moral gray area. I don't even think it's a gray area. I think she's just like a straight up like helper in murder, whatever that's called. And she's like a lawyer, which seems like they're very like, you know, ethical in the sense of like, I feel like if anybody found out anything that she's doing here, she could just get disbarred and like lose her entire career being a lawyer. And she's just completely fine with it. There's a lot of just, she has this elixir of life that she's just not sharing with the world like at all. She could be saving like so many lives with this like literal like cancer patients, sick children. Like she's just keeping this close to the chest because it's her. Like and like how is that attached to the tarot cards too that she's carrying around with her grandmother, and then she's also a lawyer? Like, man, it was so weird. I think I was really expecting like an interesting superhero type reveal, like with her character of being Calypso. She's got these tarot cards. I've never heard of this character before, so I don't know if she's actually sourced from comic book material, but
she is. If you Google Calypso, it's just like she's one of those characters who always has like 3 square inches of fabric on her whole body, like just very sexualized, and like has a very different style. And so I think they were going for a more grounded version, which they seem to do for like almost all of these Sonyverse type characters. And I don't know what her actual origin is here, but yeah, I feel like they took it like a much different route that would fit the movie. But yeah, there was a lot of weird stuff, like specifically the moment when Kraven's brother Dima gets taken. And so he calls her out, where he goes to her office, and you get that moment when he's like all wet in the office and whatnot. And he's like, "Oh yeah, there was 3 guys, and he had a Turkish cigarette." And then she just like can instantly find who these people are, and like the whole world was like insane.
I got nothing
the level
going on.
of connections that she has, that she was able to pull that out. So yeah, there was a lot of like the conveniences of like those 2 characters. They're kind of just able to do anything, but then they kind of just sometimes if one of them can't get the info, the other one can, and that ended up being the perfect team. But then you're right, Taylor, it's kind of weird that she just kind of went away there at the end, and then you kind of have like it's a 1 year later sequence that's just him and his brother. You don't have her related to the story, even though it seems like they'd be pretty intertwined at that point. But I do feel like a lot of that stuff at the end probably changed or edited or reshot or something, because even the one sequence when she's like in his home base in the little dome house, and she finds the button to like bring all the weapons down, and then we get a shot that like it seems like it's minutes after that, but maybe it's days or something, and then like he dramatically hits the button and like brings the weapons down again. But it's like, didn't she like just do that? Like, I guess that was a different day or something. But just like in terms of even the dramatic, like that as a viewer, that's supposed to be cool. It's like when Iron Man like reveals all these hidden suits. But it's like you just did that 4 seconds ago. Like, why are you showing us this scene dramatically again of showing each one coming down when it's not even that cool of a base? Like it's a pretty basic 1 room little base there. We don't need to see that sequence twice.
Man, that I actually was like laughing out loud in that moment because, like you said, like she like does the reveal, like, oh, that's kind of cool, some gadgetry, and then like later on, it's like the badass version with some, and then you see like the bad guys grabbing their like fucking bear traps, and like it felt like Acme level of like Looney Tune, like coyote, wildy coyotes, like
Yeah.
traps. I just couldn't believe what was happening. I'm like, this is the big showdown. They're getting fucking bear traps against Kraven. Like, oh my god,
When
I
that
was
one
just
guy got
so
pulled
checked
into like
out.
the tree song or
Yeah.
ripped in half, I like
Yeah.
legitimately that jump scared me and like I flinched. I took physical damage from
That was like
trap.
the most R-rated that this
Yeah.
movie got, though, right? Like that was
But
the
they
most
very
grotesque.
as you said, they very
quick
easily
cut.
could have toned that stuff down. And then
Yeah.
like even the two swears, like the F bombs in the movie, I think are from her both from Calypso, and they're
Calypso.
like 2 lines apart. So it's like
Yeah.
I feel like they could have easily got away with not doing that either.
There was one more actually. It's when Aaron Taylor Johnson's chasing Dima when he gets kidnapped, and he's like running down a hallway, and he's like, "Get the fuck out of the way!" And then
right.
and there's like no one really there, and then he jumps outside and like wall runs, and then jumps back, and then
Wastes
like the
precious
camera's pulling
time.
back, and there's literally no one there. Like he could have just kept running.
And then the van was like so far away at that point. It's like, damn it, that didn't end up working at all. So goofy.
The one thing I'll say positive on this character, I loved her outfits throughout the whole movie. So it's kind of funny that you said like her original character is like the character that, you know, it's like the old school Psylocke outfits or like Captain
Yeah,
Marvel.
just
where it's
classic Marvel, like
like no,
sexualized, all these
yeah,
outfits,
exactly.
yeah.
Whereas this one, like it felt very Wakanda in a certain way, where it was like, I don't know, some big like gold necklaces
Yeah.
and just really. She felt like royalty. Like it was some really cool
High priestess.
outfits that they had for her. I think like the most standouty would have been at her lawyer office, and then at the end, I guess she's got like a kind of like a cut like no sleeve outfit attire on, and yeah. So I liked her outfits at least, even though I really just hated everything that was going on with the character. But yeah,
She's good
Yeah.
with a bow too.
She was great with the bow.
archery summer camp. Like fuck, how many
And
times
you
have we seen this?
Kirkland, to bring up like so just her description on Wikipedia here. Calypso is a nameless voodoo priestess who was born and raised in Haiti, has she's psychopathic woman associated with Kraven. So I like that's the one I'd pull that line in there and why they like put the tarot card stuff in there just to probably harken back to like what that character's origins are. She doesn't really come across as like a voodoo type character in this.
Yeah.
But just like the hint of it through the cards, which is weird. Like she obviously did that when she was like a teen, whatever, on Safari thing when she helped save Kraven by calling for help when he got mauled by the lion. But then like she says she carries them around like into her adulthood, so she's still just like in that small purse always carries around like a huge pack of tarot cards and doesn't seemingly ever use them again. But like that's just it connects her to her family, I guess. So maybe that's the reason why.
Yeah, I looked up the image. Yeah, what a wild outfit. Very like early
Classic.
comic booky.
Yeah, very classic.
Yeah, the character, I'm kind of in agreement with you, Kirkland. But yeah, just the way she was just introduced and kind of appeared, and her sources, like you mentioned, Dylan, it's just very odd. And we didn't even get a climactic scene when Kraven calls her up, says, "Hey, it was a setup. You need to get out of there because Rhino's coming for you now." And then she immediately just happens to see like, oh, there's 5 guys coming to my building that don't look like they belong. Kraven's like, okay,
Yeah, that
go out to
timing
the
was
loading
insane.
dock. That was insane timing. Kraven's like, okay, go out to the loading dock. I'll have someone pick you up. The next scene is there. I'm pretty sure it was Siberia where he lives or whatnot. And she just got out of the plane. We never meet his plane pilot friend who's always like on these
Right.
missions. Like
Ellie.
I was
think
trying.
that's her name.
I was trying to figure out like, okay, who is she in connection or relation to him? Because it feels like there's like a friendship here. But
Seems like that was
never
something that
answered.
maybe got cut. Like maybe there was an actor in that role in a bigger way, and then just didn't make it in the end or something.
Yeah, unfortunately. Well,
I would love to jump to another character then by the name of the
yes.
Foreigner, who's a Marvel character I've never heard of before. Played by what's this actor's name? We've seen him in a couple things recently. He was in Poor Things. He was in Sanctuary. Christopher Abbott, who's kind of like I feel like an up and comer lately. I didn't know he was going to be in this movie, so that was kind of a fun surprise. And I thought he did a good enough job given the level, like the quality level of dialogue in this. But I thought that was a really cool character. I liked his really trippy powers, kind of doing the countdown, and don't know if he's freezing time, like if he's a time traveler, or if he's just like, knocking these people out, like knocking them unconscious, kind of like Professor X can do that, right? Just like put people in a state of stasis for a bit while he does other things. But either way, I thought he was really cool. I thought his glasses, which were really stupid looking, were just like a perfect fit, how he would take them off and then like look in people's eyes and mind control them. So I thought he was a super fun character. And like on top of that, one thing that I love that I feel like these Marvel movies never do is, your hero character, if you want to call Kraven that anti-hero villain, I don't know what you want to call him, but he's the protagonist, that he's the hero in this setting, in this story, quote unquote. You kind of expect that, okay, he's going to find, this is like huge adversary to him. It's a very different type of villain or combatant than he's normally used to. And it's like, how is he going to overcome this? And I kind of love that the solution is that he just never did. Like, he straight up would have died and lost were it not for Calypso to come in there with the clean headshot and take that guy out. Kraven was dead to rights because, like, even though he's the greatest hunter in the world, potentially, or one of the best, he still has his weaknesses. In the way that Rhino was, like, impenetrable except for, like, one tiny little hole on the left side of him, like any boss battle in a video game. I kind of love that the Foreigner was just better than Kraven in a one-on-one, but his weakness, I don't really know what you'd call his weakness. I guess just, like, he got too zoned in on the kill or something. But I don't know. I thought he was a very fun villain, and I'm surprised because I've literally never heard of this character, and I'm gonna look up right now if he actually is like a known Marvel character.
Yeah. For me, yeah, I think he was definitely the more interesting part of this movie. I was really like waiting for maybe more explanation on exactly what's happening. So I think I was a little bit bummed that answer never
That's
got
fair.
fully
Yeah.
resolved. But I guess I can always look into some source material for the character because he was cool and interesting enough, and to make me want to seek him out and hopefully he's got some good juice in the works, but definitely not under the Sony banner. And I feel like I was also just like really confused on his like alignment because like who initially hired him? Was it just Papa? Or is it Rhino?
I think it was Rhino that hired him.
Because it seemed like Rhino was really confused when he like showed up, or like
I don't think he had maybe seen him or met him before.
oh okay, he had just hired the Foreigner.
I think so. That's the way
Yeah.
I read it.
Yeah, I think it's just like a lot of the handling maybe around the character and like logistics of how it was all working was just so messy. It just kind of frustrated me. But yeah, like the character
Yeah.
himself was definitely cool. And
Yeah, I don't think he
performance was
like
pretty
fit
clean.
into the overall narrative in a really seamless way. I just liked him more for the visual and like the power side
Yeah.
of it.
I like your just addressing, I guess, of like the fact that Kraven just couldn't actually beat this guy like in a straight up fight. And
Yeah, because Kraven's not like some all powerful Marvel character.
Yeah.
He's like just the generic, little bit strong, got better stamina. Like
Enhanced stamina, of course.
He is that like generic level character, so he shouldn't be able to just beat every opponent. Like he's gonna lose to so many people, and I think that was like a fitting character for that. Whereas other characters maybe doesn't make as much sense, like Captain Marvel or something. You're never gonna take her down if you're just like
Yeah.
low level power level. But for Kraven, it makes a lot of sense for him to get taken out easily.
yeah, that arrow's not going to take out Captain Marvel. Like even if she's not paying attention, she's just got like the
Yeah,
strength. to
Calypso
fight it.
stands no chance against Captain Marvel.
Yeah, the Foreigner, he was interesting, and he's probably the most interesting villain out of all the others in this movie. And when he really gets to shine, when he hits that serum into Kraven, I really like that. I felt like I was Defoe, like in that meme, like GIF, like looking up, because when those spiders are coming down, I'm in the reclining seats. I was like, holy
Forgot
fuck!
about
Like
spiders. Yeah.
that was definitely very freaky. But they did a really good job with that whole scene, because you think that Kraven's got him and is punching the shit out of him. And then all of a sudden it changes to this log and he just walks up behind him. Like, man, this guy's just on like a Scarecrow level from DC. Like, he's just totally fucking with him, and this is really cool. My con is that I feel like the 1, 2, 3 just got a little bit too repetitive. One too many times. I think it was cool. Like
if
the
you
first
counted
couple
to
of
10,
times.
I would agree with you, but I think 3.
Oh my
Acceptable.
god. Oof.
3 motherfucker. That was another F-bomb by Calypso.
I feel like there's so many times where he didn't need to just like teleport behind a guy just to like kill him, or just to wait for the guy to turn around and face him just to shoot him. I mean, he could have just he could have said one and just pulled a gun and just like shoot the guy. But
That's not
he-
the powers.
He's
gotta
very
count down to three.
dramatic.
he is dramatic. Like it's his like not his calling card, but like his routine. He has to make sure they snap out of it and then turn around so they make eye to eye. Just a weird thing, but yeah, he was cool. But yeah, ultimately he got Hawkeyed. So
Well, Hawkeye is not usually just going for like impaled headshots.
No.
Yeah.
He's more
He's got stun
PG-13,
arrows.
but
yeah. Well, I kind of want to talk about the brother here and
Damn.
how I just could not be pulled out from the fact that now you didn't see Gladiator 2, did you, Kirkland? Because this is the same actor. from
No,
Gladiator
I went
2.
with a buddy from work that's seen Gladiator, and he like right away he's like, "Oh, that guy's in Gladiator too." I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool."
And so that role completely just pulled me out of it because I feel like at the start he's very similar in how he's just like cowering and all these like just how he's acting, especially when Russell Crowe is around. And that
I love
again,
that kind
pulls
of
me out of it.
loose Gladiator connection. You know, Russell Crowe and him, even though they weren't in the same Gladiator movie. But
Yes.
I was really digging when they had scenes together. I don't know. I'm sure him being a young actor probably loved Gladiator as a kid. Now he's like in these movies with these people. I'm sure he was like fanboying a little bit after I don't know when this would have been filmed in relation to Gladiator 2, but I'm sure that was a cool moment for him.
I think this guy was born after Gladiator came out too.
That would not surprise me.
He's born after 2000, so
Russell Crowe's like giving him advice, like, "Oh, if you want to be successful in Gladiator, do
If you want
this
to
and
have a
do that."
lifelong career like me, where I'm in
go
The
to
Pope's Exorcist and Kraven.
work on his Russian accent. You got to start working on your Russian accent. Yeah, it's funny because you're just talking about Gladiator. I feel like every time like Russell Crowe would be just doing a certain line about you have to be a man and man up, you don't be weak, and I'm just like, man, this guy was in Gladiator. How far we've come. Like just thinking of like Gladiator 1 and how fucking emotional that movie gets with this character and how great those scenes are and how good he is just like, and like, I'm not going to criticize a specific, well, yeah, maybe I will, but
You can.
just it felt like an incredibly different jump. It's been many years as we're talking since Gladiator 1, but no, who oh yeah, The Foreigner. And then who
No, the
else were we
brother.
talking about?
The brother,
The brother.
Dimitri.
Damn, see there. I'm losing my way already. But yeah, I really, really, really didn't like this whole dynamic. You guys brought up just the trio, I guess, of the two brothers and the dad. And I think I just hated the whole family dynamic, honestly. Like I hated the opening. I hated the young stuff. I just really didn't like it. And then the younger brother, he just felt like Reek from Game of Thrones when he's just like a castrated, like weak individual that just has like no confidence. And I don't know. I just hated it. And I also knew that we were like at some point in this movie, whether it's at the end or during, he's going to do like a villain thing where he is like becoming the chameleon. And I'm like, I just fucking hate this so much. I know it's coming. I know this is the end of Sony, so I don't have to like worry about, well, not the end of Sony, but this universe. I was just, I don't know. I was cringing before it happened, and when it happened, we'll talk about it, but I was cringing during. And yeah, I just really didn't like, I didn't even like the dynamic between Dimitri and Kraven. It felt like Kraven just totally fucked over his brother by running away, and he like comes back every birthday, but like it's just such a fucked up weird dynamic amongst like him and the dad, and it was so just messy. I think all of it that I just brought down pretty much everyone that was involved.
Yeah. I liked it until the 1 year later sequence when he takes the villain turn. That did not work for me at all. And I didn't feel like we were really building towards that. Obviously we had many sequences where he felt, I don't know, disrespected, or he was trying to stand up against his father, but he also still loved his father and respected him given all that, which is kind of like a bit of like hostage syndrome, I feel like
Yeah.
a little bit. And
syndrome.
I thought that dynamic was interesting to a certain extent, like just the differences that he had with his father versus Sergey there. So I like that stuff. I think they could have dug into it more, but I don't think I really wanted them to. I think it was done just enough. And yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting storyline for him that, just this macho energy. You got to be a hunter. You got to take out the biggest game in the world. And he just was not that kind of person. And instead he went to the arts and he wanted to become a musician and own a club. And he is achieving and doing those things. Is he doing it by his own bootstraps, or did his dad just give him a bunch of money? I don't really know. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, I guess. But I kind of like that dynamic. And I thought the two had a good chemistry. I am kind of a little biased because I love this actor Fred. I forget his last name, but plays the brother who is, in White Lotus. That's where I just love his character in White Lotus. He's so fun in that, and so even in Gladiator 2, where I didn't love the writing of the character, I still liked him for the most part, and it's kind of the same case here until, once again, that very ending sequence. I love for, like, half this movie, like, all the action sequences, he's just wearing, like, that light blue, like, turtleneck sweater. I think that was, like, such a funny costume choice, and he is a very goofy guy to me in, like, all these roles. He just has, like, a goofy energy to him, so that was kind of very fitting. But, yeah, the chameleon stuff, it was kind of weird. Like, for the first while, I was like, whoa, because he has like the voice thing. He's like able to modulate his voice really well. And then his dad's like, he's kind of a chameleon, hey? And I'm like, oh, are we going the chameleon route here? But it's like, this is a different version of chameleon where he doesn't do like the mystique transformations and he just does voices or something. But it clearly shows at the end that he was still like getting these injections or whatever it was. So it hadn't quite built to that level yet. And by the end of the movie, 1 year later, it's like fully taken form and he can transform into people. So I think that's cool. Like, I've been wondering, like, where's Chameleon? Why haven't they done him in live action yet? It's such a versatile character, obviously, as we've seen in all the X-Men movies with Mystique. It's like with that kind of character, you can just do some really fun stuff messing with the viewer, as we're watching it and not knowing who is who's real and whatnot. But yeah, I do feel like the villain turn wasn't really justified for me at the end. I think he made some interesting points of the way he talks about how, well, how are you any different than our father if you like had this hit done on him from like a lion or a bear, I guess. Like that was kind of an interesting dynamic, but that kind of feels like anything in the 1 year later sequence feels like something that would like be in a sequel, but they kind of just jammed like 10 minutes as a sequel in here, even though we're never going to get one. So that stuff just felt like really underbaked. And I don't know if I would have liked it more if they just did it more as like a tease and kind of hinted at maybe he was going down a darker path. But the fact that he's like, oh yeah, I'm like fully in the world of crime now and I'm just gonna like do this stuff seemed like a little like jump the shark sort of moment in terms of the absurdity of it. I did like the look of Chameleon. I mean, it's hard to do it wrong when it's just like a guy who has like silver flesh and looks like an alien. But I think they did a good job of making that look correct. But yeah.
They have like one brief moment when Kraven like defeats Rhino that he's like gonna shoot him, and then it's like, this isn't you, brother. And it's like, again, like there's no point throughout the movie that he's like has these villain tendencies. So it's just like, what the fuck is even happening here? Like it seems like
and Kraven even talks him down in that moment too. So I feel like it's kind of inconsistent with the arc that we're building for him.
And like I think it just makes so much more sense to have. I don't know. It kind of translates into like just my overall thoughts with the plot and what I think this movie could have been so much better if it was just simplified, of really not even having the Rhino dynamic. Like you could have just had the main threat and really the only threat being Russell Crowe, like the father, and like it would have been so much more enticing if like the final showdown it's Dimitri about to like do that to the dad, like shoot him, because he's just been abusing him his whole life, right? Like he's so pathetic and like weak because of what his dad is like raising him up to be, right? Like you're never gonna be good enough, you're always weak, can't even defend yourself. He's just a bully to him his whole life, and you don't even get any resolution with that. Like he's literally defending his dad's actions by the end of it. After the 1 year later, he says that, right? Like, oh, like you're not as good as dad or pop. Jeez, I can't even get the line because it's just
Hunting
so terrible.
accident.
So I really was upset that was just not addressed at all. He's just like a victim of his father and like very much Stockholm syndrome of just like defending him to the end, and it like nothing out of that. So I was really just upset with that whole thing, and then it felt just so shoehorned and very sequel-y. Like I liked your just name for it, I guess, because I it just felt weird. It felt like a little epilogue at the end, and it felt like something that you could have gotten in a sequel. I don't want a sequel, but it just felt like it was just pieced on there and tacked on there, and and then like when he's about to shoot Rhino, it just felt so like undeserved, and it was I didn't like it at all.
And I think that's kind of a repeated, consistent thing throughout this movie is things are left unfinished, and it's not great that they do that with so many different narratives. So when you look at the brother here, Dimitri, it just is kind of shocking that they would jump a year ahead. Like I feel like okay, if they're gonna do this and they're trying to showcase him as the villain, this is clearly them trying to allude to a future for this character and this franchise. But especially when Kraven's like, oh, I can't let you do that. I'll have to go. I'll have to stop you. Yada yada yada. I think that if you axe that whole sequence of it being a year, you do something much more closer to the present. And on top of that, if it is a year, why did Kraven fuck off for a year and leave his brother alone in the wake of all this chaos to just go see a fucked up doctor and get weird experimental drug surgery done to change his skin? Like, Kraven should have been there and had been monitoring him because his brother should not have been put in control of this empire. There's just a lot of questionable things, and Kraven's just making mistakes left, right, and center.
Yeah,
He's a
you would think
terrible
that.
brother.
Yeah, you would think that his list at the end of this movie is still like a huge ass list. So he's like presumably still like working and stuff, and you would think a lot of those would be connections to his father's, because the father, that's before the 1 year later jump, right?
Yes.
It must be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you would think that would be like, yeah, he would be more involved there or see some of that stuff. Now, obviously, the brother was already starting the treatment before the 1 year later sequence, because you could do the voice modulation there, but he hadn't gone like fully off the deep end there.
Well,
Yeah.
The voice modulation, I thought that's something he could always do because when he was a kid, he did
He
it.
could do it as a kid, yeah.
What did he do as a kid?
He could
He's
just
like,
mimic voices.
yeah, he does Russell Crowe's voice. It like when they're
Right.
like coming downstairs, he has Russell Crowe calls in Sergey, and then he's going down. He's like,
I
does
wonder
the
if it's
line.
like a unlocking the full potential of his power thing, and maybe he already had some special
Yeah.
power, because like that's the thing, right? It's not like the actor is doing an impression. They just straight up take that actor's voice and like
Yes.
use it like even before the powers. So okay, you guys are making me rethink that a little bit. I kind of forgot about that scene when he was a kid. That's interesting. Do you think that the New York doctor was like alluding to a specific character, or is it just like, because the fact that it's
Well,
New York is like, okay, well
yeah.
that's definitely in the Spidey realm, right?
well, they said the full name, and
Miles
did they?
Warren
yeah.
My God.
was his
Miles
name. I
Warren.
thought they were going to say Dr. Connors, but...
So did I, because like the
Or
skin
Morbius
effect
or
felt
something,
very.
I don't know.
Yeah, that was the other one, of course, Dr. Michael Morbius. So,
Who is
but the skin effect felt very like crocodile-y. So I thought
Right.
it was gonna be Kurt Connors, but
Interesting.
like Miles
He
Morales? No, okay, no.
studied
Miles Warren.
genetics under the tutelage of the High Evolutionary...
Oh shit!
That's interesting. Similar power situation, unlocking the full potential.
Fell in love with Gwen Stacy.
Well, haven't
Interesting.
we
Who
all?
hasn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there a
Uh,
hero name for that character though, Taylor?
I think not a hero, a villain. It looks like he took the name the Jackal.
The Jackal.
Oh, the
okay.
Jackal.
I'm not familiar with the Jackal.
Looks like a
Sounds
gargoyle.
like the Prowler though, similar to the Prowler.
Similar. Yeah, I hear the soundtrack already. The
Yeah.
theme.
Interesting. Well, please let us know in the comments. What's your theory there? Like, in terms of the powers, like when that came to be. It probably is just in the previous year, I guess. But yeah, it is interesting that he was able to do that as a kid. So I don't know the origin. I feel like whenever I've seen Chameleon in like the animated series and stuff, it's just like there's no origin story. It's just Chameleon already could chameleon himself. You know,
Yeah.
there was never the full setup of how he got the powers. But that was just, I guess, an interesting thing in general. This movie felt a lot more mystical in general than like anything else in the Sonyverse, where all the Venom stuff, like, it makes sense because it comes from like that alien goo. But I feel like in this, like with like this magic potion that we have, and like the Foreigner, who knows where his powers come from.
Yeah.
Chameleon, like before maybe even the injections, he had like some sort of supernatural power. And obviously, yeah, Kraven gets the potion powers. Rhino situation. It just feels like there's a lot more characters. Like, I feel like all these other movies have like one or two, like the villain and or sometimes not even the villain. Like in Madam Web, doesn't the villain like not have like any powers whatsoever? He's just like a guy.
Ezekiel Sims.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's got powers. He got like Spider-Man super strength powers and stuff like that, doesn't he?
Oh, does he? I don't know. Can't remember.
Can't remember anything.
A whole few months ago.
You mentioned Rhino. This character
I know.
is my God. The only other interpretation that I've had the experience of knowing is the one from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 with that rhino in the mech
Oh
suit.
dear.
I've never encountered him in the games or anything like that, so
Oh my
I can't
gosh.
speak to it. But this version, I was not driving with as him being like a main boss. And yeah, he was cool when he like let his rhino self take over. I thought that was kind of fine. But there's one scene, I can't remember what was the trigger for him or whatnot. You get him at the earlier on in the movie in the intro talking to Russell Crowe, and Russell Crowe just like belittles him. And this very much seemed like an Iron Man 3 kind of thing with an Aldrich Killian kind of
Similar
on the roof.
hair, actually.
Similar hair.
That.
Yeah,
Oh my
and then he
God.
comes back and he's genetically modified himself, ready to take on the family. So it's very similar in how its narrative is set up. But for me, though, when he was told some bit of bad news, and he's just sitting there and he's like, for like 30 fucking seconds, just
I
hissing.
Burst out.
Loved that hiss. That
Oh.
had me and the whole theater. We were up in arms. Everyone was enjoying that moment.
That was
I felt like the only
wild.
person actually laughing. I feel like people were just kind of like shocked as to what was happening, but
My theater
that
was
caught me, burst me.
completely quiet the rest of the movie, except for one guy who did like a loud ass fart. But like that scream got the theater to pumping. So
Nice.
It was just
it was
so
a fleeting moment.
weird. And
Yeah,
the
do you
way
think it was like
he
an actor choice,
talks.
director choice? Like, was it in the script? I need to know. I need to know whose
I
decision
could believe
it was.
any of those three options. That's the
know.
most terrible thing about this movie.
It's true.
I don't know
I-
what the actor is though from anything else. I didn't recognize him.
He looks kind of like the generic guy you've seen around before, but like I can't put a name to a face in terms of the other movies. But yeah, Rhino, what a character here. I kind of enjoyed him a little bit just because it was like so dumb. It was like so bad it's good to some extent for me, a little bit. Like he was better than some other villains I've seen in the Sony verse. I'll put it that way. Not like in actual quality, but just in terms of like how silly and stupid it was. And Taylor's having a crazy
Oh my
realization.
god. Do you know do you guys know who he is? Oh my
No, we just said we don't.
fucking god. So I'm going to take you back to Jurassic Park 3. A guy named Billy.
Oh my god, are you fucking kidding me?
No, I'm serious.
I don't think I've
Oh
seen
my
that
god,
one.
it's Billy. He's got his
Billy.
lucky. It's got his lucky strap.
I
Oh my
rescued
god,
your
it
hat.
is. I can totally see his face. Okay, I knew his face was familiar somewhere. That is so
That's
funny.
nuts.
You shouldn't have grabbed those raptor eggs. My god.
I don't think I've seen Jurassic Park 3, to be
Oh
honest with
man,
you guys.
throw it on tonight before
Yeah.
you're going to bed.
I did the first episode of that retro and then just did not do the rest.
Decent place to jump out.
I thought another inspired choice by the costume designers here because, like as I mentioned, I love the blue turtleneck sweater that my boy Fred had. But I think to give the character of Rhino, who is only actually Rhino that you know and love, in like the last battle, the rest of it he's just like a guy. But I think the decision to give him like this small little backpack that was really tight the whole movie was so dumb. It just looked so bad. But I loved it. It just had me chuckling every time I saw him. Like I don't know whose idea that was, but like if I guess they really wanted a reason to explain that he always had this like IV thing going into him. But like as I said, this movie is so mystical that you could have easily not had that at all or like made it really small and we would believe it because Kraven took like one sip of this potion and now he has powers for the rest of his life. So the fact that he had to have this stupid little backpack on to get this constant IV was just absolutely ridiculous. And not like that it was ever a plot point. It's not like that's how he became Rhino because someone ripped the backpack off him and now he can't control it anymore. He just like took it off. He would like unplug it and then take the backpack off. It was like so weird the way it was done. But yeah, once again, crazy concept. Whoever came up with that.
Yeah, I call them my feed bags.
Yeah, that was weird.
I hated this character so much. I was very shocked about his screech that he did. There's a couple other moments that I think he just did something that I was not expecting. So in that sense, it was like, wow, okay, well, this is at least a little bit memorable. But yeah, I really didn't like the whole just choice about his character and his whole whoever's decision it was, whether Taylor listed all the options. I was not a fan of it at all. And like when it opens up, like after he has the long hair, when we come back to him and he's just like chasing his dog on all fours, because like I kind of recognized him as that character. I'm like, man, I hope he just gets popped right here by like Russell Crowe. Like I just hate this character already. And then no, he's our Rhino. We're gonna be sticking with this guy for the entire film. And yeah, I didn't like the whole thing of him just taking over. His feed bags was weird. The big, like the backpack, the super tight backpack. It's definitely. It's different, and yeah, it's more memorable. But I just didn't like it.
It's not menacing whatsoever.
It's not menacing at all. No, he was a very strange guy, and then I guess the Rhino effect, like at the very end, it looked not as bad as maybe I would have thought, because my like first experience with this character would have been from like the '60s cartoon show, like the comic book one where he's just like. He's just like in a costume. He just got his head and he just has the Rhino suit that is what he is. And then that version is pretty much what's carried over to like the PS1 Spider-Man game and other Spider-Man games is pretty much that version. So that's always been my kind of Rhino in my mind, at least. And then yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 2 that just blew my mind. I couldn't believe that they did that. And then I liked when he was the Rhino, but it just like the human version of him, just like all like the quirky mannerisms and everything, it just wasn't really hitting for me at all. And it was a lot of him in this movie, and because I wasn't liking it, I just felt like I was just like arms crossed pouting like for a lot of it, and then checking my phone on like run times, and oh my god, we're only 40 minutes in. Okay. Last Sony movie, you can do this, Kirkland, let's do it. Come on.
Yeah, I think the really odd part, because as I mentioned, like I liked that Kraven just lost to the Foreigner, and then he kind of had this downfall. I feel like the way that they wrote how Rhino got defeated was really weird, that he just had this one like hole on him, I guess, that you could stab into. I don't know. It just, like, for a video game that makes sense, but for a movie, I maybe wanted something a bit smarter, because obviously his skin was impenetrable to all the blades that Kraven had, even though he kept trying more blades. Like, I feel like after 3 or 4 broke, I'm like, okay, you could cool it with the blades. These are clearly not working. So I think I would have liked a more clever solution there. But, like, I guess Kraven's not really that kind of guy. He's a very brute force kind of guy. He's not really outsmart, or at least this version of Kraven's not outsmarting people at any point. He's just tougher, I suppose.
It very much felt like it was going to be the feed bags, because we went through the whole explanation of this is what takes away the power. He explained it to Dimitri. Dimitri's
Very
right
true.
there. You could do the brothers pair up right here. Have Dimitri, hey, plug this in, pass it to him. Does the exact same scene.
Yeah.
Does the one line, he's choking him out, and then he just stabs him, but he's got the feed bag, goes human form. Then you could even have, you can bring back Dimitri with the gun, and he's the one that shoots him or something. And then that's when you have Kraven like, no, don't do it. Other than he's already fucking dead because Kraven did it all by himself.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Very
many
good point,
ways
because
it could've been
Dimitri was the
better.
one who's getting what's the word? He was just getting all that info from him. He was the one who
Yeah.
was learning about all these bags. Yeah.
So it's
Very
like, why
weird.
did we go through all that explaining if we didn't even really? I don't know. I guess just to explain how he gets the powers, but
He reminded me of like like Bane, but in the reverse from Batman and Robin. The
Totally,
97
yeah.
one where you hit the button and he just turns into Bane. In this case, it's the opposite of that, because he unplugs his meal sack.
His meal
I think
sack.
in Batman, he just calls it his Venom, right? Like it's like it's funny crossover with Venom.
Oh, well, you know what? Let's take another ad break here, and then we'll keep on hunting. So we'll be right back. And we are back.
I like hunting, Papa.
Let's
talk
go
about
hunting.
Papa.
Let's go hunting in the origin story. How about? And
Okay,
Talk about that a
let's
little
do
bit. I don't think I really have much to say about this sequence. It went on way too long. I think it was maybe important it sets up quite a few things. Of course, it explains how Kraven gets his power from the potion there. It sets up the connection between him and Calypso, which ends up being a really important connection later on. It gives you that stuff with the brother, and then explains why his brother would be so upset with him when he finally does leave him there. It sets up a lot with the father and that kind of relationship dynamic from all three of them. So it does a lot for the story, but I do feel like it should have been trimmed down a little bit. And it was just not a very exciting sequence either, I guess, is the other side of it. And I don't really think the younger actor versions did a poor job at all with the acting. But yeah, I think it just should have been tightened up a little bit. I feel like that's just gonna be my criticism of like every comic book movie for I don't know a while. We're just so inundated with these movies that like we got to speed through these origin story things, especially when they're very uninteresting like this one. Like I said, it does lay the groundwork for a lot of stuff, but when it doesn't really build that much at the end of the day, it's like okay, we don't need to do all this. So could have used a shorter version of that.
Yeah, I completely agree with the length. It felt way too long, and it went on so long that I actually was like, when do we get Aaron Taylor Johnson? Like, it seems like this guy is gonna just carry us into the modern day.
Yeah.
And then he gets to the point where he's like kind of becoming Kraven. We blink, and it just is Aaron Taylor Johnson, and what we got in between was 16 years later, and it just felt so weird to me. Where it's like, okay, all he been doing just been assassinating people for the last 16 years, and that's how he just grew into like, I guess so. It felt like it could have been like literally a 4-year jump, right? Not 16 years. Like, okay, the younger actor was maybe a little bit scrawnier than what ATJ is, but like, fuck, they looked pretty similar in age. I know that Aaron Taylor Johnson is over 30, but I feel like, I don't know, like, not 16-year difference between the two. I don't know. So that was really just shocking, I think, to go from the young version to that. Like, it felt like it could have been much younger of an actor, maybe, to make that jump. I don't know. It just, for me, it felt way too close together there. The other thing that I just really, I guess it just kind of planted the seeds for my hatred towards the dynamic between Dimitri and Sergey was when, like, we see all these scenes where Russell Crowe is just a piece of shit dad, right? Like, he's just, my sons are weak unless they're like me. We're going to go hunt. Your mom's suicided herself. You can't see her because she suicided. Like, no funerals for people that did that, even though he's like the reason why she probably ran and like mentally was unwell. So yeah, it was just setting up that dynamic. Yes, like I think that was good. I actually really liked the acting of the young actors in that sequence. Like, I thought they both were handling the news in different ways, which would have made sense for their characters. Like, it seemed like Sergey was really trying to like stay composed, but it was obviously just like such a shock to him. And then Dimitri, yeah, like obviously very devastated, but like it's very, I don't know, just they portrayed the grief really well and in unique ways, as if they're not just copying each other like the actors. So that was really just noticeable for me. I think it was a great setup for like the brotherly bond. Because they're just both victims of kind of their dad's abuse and just the fucked up dynamic that they have. And that's why it felt so like a major betrayal for Kraven to be running away, right? Like he's completely isolating his brother. It seems like he's been his brother's guard like his whole life, and now he's just leaving his brother. And it feels like something that is unforgivable. And like, when we do the 16-year jump, he's like still just texting him and like shouting out, right? Like his brother calls him as Russell Crowe. It's like, just kidding. Oh, brother, when am I gonna see you again? And it's just like, what the fuck? Do they like play Xbox and Warzone every weekend, these two? Like, it just seems like they've been best buds their whole life, and it takes away so much from that impactful emotional breakaway. Like, it should have been like the next time we see Chameleon, he is like an assassin or something. Like he is his dad's perfect weapon that he wanted Kraven to be, and that would have just been so much more intriguing than Reek, who we meet, just fucking doing his Tom Petty, whatever the hell impersonations that he's doing, and it is, yeah, it's his club. No, it's his dad's club. Like, his whole life is just under his dad's thumb, and yeah, I really hated how they were like, okay, there might have been some like held back anger that Dimitri has towards him, but it just felt like they were brothers. And it seems like he sees him every single year on his birthday, right? Like, they even say that. So I'm assuming it's been that way for 16 years. I don't know. I was so upset with that.
That applies to the father too. I thought we were gonna get this big reveal when the father, like Russell Crowe, finally sees Kraven, but no, he just walks in like, both my sons together, and gives like a bottle, and they have a drink. It's like, well, this is just so.
Shake my hand, son.
You won't hug me, but you'll shake my hand. It's just such a lame. I thought it would be a very climatic, high-end moment for our characters, but no, like you said, yeah, just he's seeing them every year. He's like, oh, Kraven's probably like, oh, I'm here for this. I'm traveling the world. I'm here. I'm in Russia. I'm over here in China and I'm in Japan, and this guy's just still in his club, just doing his own thing. But
Sorry, one quick thing on the club that I found very funny is that like Sergey hits up his brother in the house, and he's like, "Oh, is that what you're gonna be dressed up as for my party?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess so. We can just stay in." He's like, "No, we have to go out. It's my birthday. On your birthday, we can stay in." But then they like go to the club, and they're the only ones there, and it's just the two of them. And it's like, what? Why didn't you just stay at home and like your dad could come visit you? Like, I thought they were gonna go have like this huge thrasher, but like it was just the two of them anyway. So that was very unnecessary shit talk of his brother there.
There's 2 people leaving though, right? Craven had enough time to just totally fuck up that whole guy.
oh, that was funny.
Infidelity situation.
Oh
That
yeah,
was
that was
actually
so
funny.
goofy.
Yeah.
She was gonna find out sooner or later. Yeah.
The moment too when he kind of like rebels against his dad when he's in that origin moment, and his dad just has that fucking lion mounted in his room, but he gets so pissed and he yells at his dad and he storms off. He goes upstairs to his bedroom, and his brother Demetrius like, walks through like, "What's going on?" And then it was just this long shot of just Kraven just turn around like, oh, and just like fucking like puts his hand like on him and just pushes him and slams the door.
Yeah.
It was so fucking goofy. I was laughing.
And then even more to that, like then he does this whole thing where he's stealthing out of the house, and like the thing crumbles and he falls to the ground, and then he's leaving. Then like his brother was just outside. It's like, why didn't you just walk out the front door? Like,
Yeah.
why'd you have to sneak out? This doesn't make sense.
Just weird choices. Weird word choices.
Goofy. I just have 2 more things here, I think. One set piece we haven't really talked about, and it's kind of a minor one, but is like the Turkish monastery where he goes when he finds the true location of Dima. I don't know. I had some fun with that, just him like scaling these buildings and like doing the stealth stuff, using the darts to like knock people out. I love when he's like going up the stairs behind those 2 guys, and like first he like crouches and then he like goes into the
That was
wall.
good.
I'm like, there's no way that would work, but it kind of just shows like how
It's
good he is at, like-
Dishonored. It's
Yeah,
how like
exactly.
the
Yeah.
arcane stealth mechanics work, right? You're crawling right behind them. Like there's no way
Mhm.
that they don't feel my presence right on
and they
their
like
neck.
they turn
Like,
their head
yeah.
a little bit, but then they just go back to their NPC guard duty. So I liked that sequence. I thought the part when the foreigner gets there and he finds the dart, I think it's cool in theory what he does there. How he's like, oh, this dart has like this ancient like flower liquid on it that is only grown in like a 1 kilometer radius on the whole planet, and that's how they find his base. Is like, that is a massive leap in logic. But like they should have like, okay, that's how they used like step 1 to get close to him, and then they could narrow it down. But it was goofy. I think it was like there was an interesting concept there, but then it was just a little too cheesy. But I overall I liked the look of that set piece and that location, and I don't know, I had fun with it for what it was. It was very short as well.
I
Yeah.
agree. I liked it.
You said you had another point there.
I
Dylan?
guess my one last thing is, and you mentioned it briefly there, Taylor, was once Foreigner hits him with that poison dart and he's hallucinating, the spiders are coming down. To me, that is like a tasteful connection to the Spider-Man content that this like character kind of originates from. We've seen some really cheesy stuff, like all the way back to Morbius. I remember we like in the trailers there were like Spider-Man wanted posters on the wall, and then they cut them from the final movie. They weren't even in there. And then like Madam Web really went overboard with some of these connections there that just feel like, oh, you guys just want Spider-Man in here so bad, don't you? But I actually thought this was like a really good one. This is something that like when we get to the sequel, if that were to happen in an alternate universe, in a multiverse, and you have this, and he like thinks back on this moment when he was really freaked out by these spiders, that could be some interesting connection there. But yeah, I thought that was kind of tasteful and like a nice use of that without it just being like a too cheesy of a connection or making you think of like, man, I prefer like in that scene I wasn't thinking, man, I wish this was a Spider-Man movie in the way that we've wished that for so many of these other things. So I thought that was well done.
Yeah, I agree. That's actually a really, really good point to mention there. There was a lot of Daily Bugle shots too.
I missed
paper.
those actually.
There was
Yeah.
2 of them that I noticed.
When
Okay.
Calypso's like just, I think, oh my God, you just reminded me actually. So Kraven finds her at the funeral, right, for her friend. It's just okay, yeah, well, he's the hunter. He finds people, and then they chat like, this is what I do. I murder people. Do you want to help me murder people? Like I gotta think about that. I'm a lawyer, but I'll think about it. And then the scene is just her like doing research on the hunter and like, wow, this guy kills people. And then like the next shot is just her meeting up with him again. It's like, man, I looked into you. like it was just such a weird like jump. And I felt like multiple times in this movie we're just fast traveling. Like we don't really
Yes.
even have to explain about how we are getting to places, and it seems like we're jumping pretty far away. Like, you know, here in North America, I kind of just know my general geography. I know some things in Europe, but like I don't think like it's that easy to just bounce from like like the
Yeah.
fucking
There was a lot
wilderness
of
of
travel in this
Siberia too. yeah.
He's got his own plane though. Remember,
He's got
He doesn't go
Ellie
anywhere.
just on standby as if she's like
Yeah.
an NPC character, just always ready to go. You know, you hit one button and she's just there, ready to go, and you never find out any more about her. She's just ready to go. She's there, and so that it was noticeable for me. I think just because I was already disliking everything that was going on, it's like I'm not gonna fucking like this isn't gonna be the one thing that ruins the movie for me. These weird logistics of travel. But the other one that I just kind of burst out laughing on or at was when he runs away from home and he just goes to a ship and he has this dialogue with again like a very NPC type character. He's like,
That was so
"You a
weird.
runaway? Yeah. Get on, brother. Like, let's go. Let's just fucking go. You don't have to pay me anything. I'll just take you on. I'll just do like an illegal stowaway situation for no payment. Like, I have no attachment to you. Like, yeah, let's just do it." And we never see that guy again. Like, it's just so simple and easy how this stuff happens. Like, whether he has to find Calypso right away, or we already talked about, but when Calypso just has all these people for information, like instantly. I have no cases going on right now. I am ready to just be your person to help you murder people. It was just kind of comedic that they didn't even really attempt to explain any of these things. It's just no, that's not even bother answering that. People won't focus on that. Well, they'll love our R-rated like fight scenes, right? They're gonna love all the violence and brutality this movie has, which is extremely tamed and barely even R-rated. So I'm just gonna stop now. Enough negativity for
I
one
love
evening.
He's fired up.
There was an interesting thing that was happening here where this humming kept reoccurring throughout the movie. This humming tune. Do you guys remember that?
That was his mom, right? That's what it was supposed to be, I would imagine.
Right,
Like when
that's-
when
that's
when he
stuff.
first runs away, goes to the hidden camp, he hears it, and then
Yes.
he's just kind of dreaming about it.
Yes, and it probably is his mom actually humming it. In retrospect, actually, I didn't connect that dot, but the tune was so familiar. I was like, okay, I've heard this theme before. This humming, it's the Huntress's theme that she hums in Dead by Day, or Dead by Daylight. So you guys know that Huntress character, the villain. She's walking around, and you hear
Oh.
the exact same hum.
That's creepy.
And so I looked into it further and found that okay, cause the Huntress is a Russian hunter, so there's that. But
Oh.
it's actually old lullaby named Bayushki Bayu, and it is an old Russian lullaby. So it's just
Cool.
I thought it was pretty neat. I'm gonna play. I have a little bit of a snippet here. I'm gonna play for you guys.
Okay, it's copyrighted.
Баю, баюшки, баю, не ложися на краю.
Yeah, there you go.
That's terrifying.
Fun. That reminded me of one thing. I love when he's like sleeping in his brother's apartment, and he just like he hears just like the air conditioner. I thought that was the sound of like people coming to invade the house, but no, it was just air conditioner. And like he can't stand like any technology and stuff like that. Like he has to go sleep in the grass. So that was funny.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
The one scene that actually got like like it was a tempting comedy and it worked for me was when he's going for the elevator and then he like throws the blade, gets in there. He's like, "I was trying to get the door for you." He's like, "No, you weren't."
Yeah. Then he's like,
I
"What do you
hate
do?
to
I'm a
admit it, but it
hunter.
worked.
What do you
Yeah.
hunt? People." Looks him
Just
right in the
looking right
eyes.
at him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool. Well, final thoughts, ratings. We'll close it up.
Chart me down for a 5 out of 10 on this one.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think there was enough in here that I enjoyed, or like I just, as Taylor, as you said, like just turn off your brain, theater experience. I had a good enough time. But obviously, when we break it down here, like the story kind of sucks. The writing's really bad. But yeah, there's some action I liked, some characters and dynamics that worked for me. Some fun, like weird characters, like the foreigner is definitely a highlight for me. So ATJ does a good job. Bring him back in the MCU. Sure, why not? Throw him in there. I don't care. So yeah, I think a 5's fair. If anything, it's generous. So I'm feeling generous tonight.
I'm not feeling generous tonight. I'm gonna stick a good old 1.5 on this one. 1.5 out of 10. I don't know. I was thinking about a 1, just because this made me so angry. Like, and again, like I don't know what all these factors are. Just maybe it's just because I thought my bar was so low, but it just wasn't low enough, and it really
My
did
bar
not
was
get
super
there.
low after seeing the Rotten Tomatoes earlier today. I'm like, this movie's gonna be atrocious, and it was
Yeah.
slightly better than atrocious.
I think I've just been getting mad too about movie budgets lately, and just thinking about.
Well, you're an
how
Oscars guy now, so you can't
Yeah,
handle this Sonyverse stuff.
Just seeing that studios are allowing those types of numbers and releasing stuff like this, it's just like fire some people, man. Like this is insane how we're getting to stuff like this. But
Fire
no
the
more.
CEOs, but not
Can't-
the grunt workers.
yes,
Keep
exactly.
those
Not
people.
not the actual, all the lighting crews, costume
Kirkland's like,
designers.
fire
no.
ATJ, fire the animators, fire the best boys. Yeah.
I'm just angry and heated right now. Come next week, I'll probably forget about this entire experience. But
Probably.
yeah, 1.5.
Just like The Foreigner, wipe your mind a little bit. You know.
1.5. Wow. Oh well, I'm gonna bring us back up a little bit. I'm gonna pop a. I was gonna say 6, but I'm gonna go 6.5. on this.
Ooh, counter my
I-
1.5 with a 6.
Yeah, that's the
1.5,
additive
eh?
number of me and
Yeah.
Kirkland's score. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think that there is some fun in this movie, but again, a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of jumps that just leave a lot of holes, and the pacing was all over the place. But at the end of the day, I think that it was a fun enough time in the theater. Again, like I said at the start, though, I mean, if you've been listening and you don't care about the spoilers and you haven't seen it yet, like you don't have to go see this in theaters. I'm going to reaffirm with that. Wait till it comes on streaming at home, because there's no urgency to go see this. Yes, Aaron Taylor Johnson, he's one of my favorite actors. I think he does a fantastic job in this with what he can do, because the writing is questionable, but I do think that there are some chemistries in here that do work really, really well, and some things that they really try to make great, but it just doesn't take off the landing strip, and it's very unfortunate that ultimately this is just going to go down as being a little bit of a, I don't want to say dumpster fire, but not a great ending to what Sony was trying to create with their own Sonyverse. And it's unfortunate because they were trying to make something for themselves, but you'd want to go out on your own terms and not going out on the terms of the fandom just literally forcing you to close your doors, and that's what is going to happen here. Well, that's what has happened. So yeah,
I would have
there you
walked in
go.
like the beekeeper, that scene, Taylor, when he goes in with the gas cans and just burn the whole place down if they were seeing they're making.
Oh,
one
well,
of these
everyone was like
movies.
clapping, and then they had noticed, like, who's this guy just standing here? That's such a
Oh
great
man,
movie.
you reminded me when he's walking with Calypso, and that fucking just random jaguar just comes out of the bush, and they just wrestle, and like I was waiting for like them to like start play, as if it's like a homie that he
Me
grew up with or
too.
something.
I thought that too. Yeah.
And then she just like fucks off. He's like, yeah, that's what I thought. I'm the hunter. And then she's like, you're so weird. Like you just found that out now. And then they like keep
Yeah.
walking. I'm like, what a fucking weird sequence.
Especially if it was established, like we've seen him, he can lock eyes, and like
Yeah.
that
command
wolf in the
animals.
opening sequence, he just like makes the wolf tame in a second. So I thought he was gonna do anything other than what actually happened.
It being tame would have made sense, because he even says too, like, I've known her since she was a
Yeah.
cub.
Yeah.
But she tries to kill
He
him.
probably
I
killed
guess.
the cub's mom and dad or something years ago.
Probably. Yeah, very weird. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Kraven review in the books. You boys will be back for Rohirrim at some point. We got After
True.
9 coming this weekend.
Hell
Me,
yeah.
Kirkland doing Creature Commandos. So
Hell yeah.
that'll be a lot of fun.
Dexter,
Lots of-
potential solo
Potentially
episode. We'll
Dexter.
see.
yeah, so there'll be lots of good stuff coming.
I
So
have to
make
go.
sure you stay in the feeds. Yeah, we'll see you in the search bar.
Bye-bye, babushkas.
I can't wait to drop that on Travis on a cast.